If the cover is cute, I will pick it up. That is, I have a problem. Hey y'all, my name is Evelyn and welcome back to my channel, Here There Be Magic, where we discuss the magic of all things storytelling. This video is part 2 of my ongoing series about my most anticipated releases of 2022. This video is all about contemporary and historical books releasing in the first half of 2022, so from January through June. Last week I posted a video about all of the speculative releases I'm excited about in the first half of the year. And in June, I'll be posting 2 more videos talking about books releasing in the second half of the year, so July through December. I know you don't want to miss out on any of that awesome content, so go ahead and click that subscribe button and ring that bell icon so you can be notified whenever I upload new videos. That being said, let's get into it. I'm going to start things off with a handful of honorable mentions. These are books that were on this list initially, but had to be removed because I received ARCs. So honorable mentions go to When You Get the Chance by Emma Lord. This one's already out. You can go ahead and order it right now. It is a Mamma Mia-esque contemporary following main character Millie on her search for her birth mother using clues from her father's old live journal account. Then there's Ophelia After All by Raquel Marie. This follows Ophelia Rojas, who in the weeks leading up to her senior prom starts to have a sexuality crisis. Then there's She Gets the Girl by Rachel Lippincott and Allison Derrick. These two are so adorable. They're a married couple who co-wrote this book together, and it's set on the college campus where they met. The book follows 2 main characters, Alex, who's a little bit too much of a flirt for her own good, and Molly, who's a complete wallflower. The 2 of them form an unlikely friendship as Alex tries to help Molly get the girl. And finally, Home Field Advantage by Dahlia Adler, which follows aspiring head cheerleader Amber, whose future on the squad becomes jeopardized when she falls for her school's new female quarterback. Alright, let's kick things off with my first anticipated book, Weather Girl by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which is already released on January 11th from Berkeley. Ari Abrams has always been fascinated by the weather, which is why she loves her job as a TV meteorologist, and she's lucky enough to work for legendary Seattle weatherwoman Torrance Hale. But her boss is a little too distracted by her tense relationship with her ex-husband, the station's news director, to properly mentor Ari. After a holiday party gone disastrously wrong, Ari teams up with Russell Beringer, a sweet, reserved sports reporter, to secretly push the 2 warring exes back together. So as you know, if you watched last week's video, Rachel Lynn Solomon is one of my favorite authors. She's pretty much auto-read at this point. Whatever she is putting out, I am picking up. And last year she released The X-Talk, which was her first adult romance, and it was also one of my first adult romances. I did not get into adult romance until last year, and it would not have been at all on my radar as something to start exploring if it were not for The X-Talk. Over the course of the year, I've gotten way more into the genre as a whole, and so I'm very excited for more from the author that helped me fall in love with it in the first place. Next up, we have Forward March by Skye Quinlan, which is set to release on February 1st from Page Street. Harper McKinley just wants to make it through her senior marching season without getting thrust into the political spotlight, which is easier said than done when your father is gearing up for a presidential campaign. Still, everything was going just fine until someone made a fake gay dating profile for her. Naturally, this causes some problems. Her school has a very strict no dating profiles policy, and potential political scandal aside, Harper isn't even sure she likes anyone like that. Then she meets Margot Blanchard, the drumline leader who swiped right. But with the campaign heating up and no idea who made this profile in the first place, is it safe to let Margot get to know the real Harper? So I was sold on this book from the first time that I saw the cover, because look at these adorable little band geeks. I was in marching band in high school, and I haven't actually had the opportunity to read a lot of YA that features band kids, or at least not marching band kids. I certainly wasn't aware of any titles that released while I was in high school, and I would have loved to read a book about marching band. I think there's so much potential there. It's such a weird little world that exists within the community, and so I'm very excited to see that come into play. It also seems like there's a little hint of identity shenanigans, or it's identity shenanigans adjacent. And y'all know I eat that shit up, so I am all around so excited to pick this book up. Next we have Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandra Bellefleur, which is set to release on February 1st from Avon Books. Margot Cooper doesn't do relationships. Even if her two closest friends have found the one and now she's a perpetual third wheel, she is perfectly happy sticking with casual hookups. She tried the whole relationship thing and it did not end well. So the last thing she's expecting is for the one that got away to drop back into her life in the form of her engaged friend's wedding planner. So this is the third book in Alexandra Bellefleur's adult romance series. You may be familiar with the first book, Written in the Stars. That one got a lot of attention because it's a sapphic Pride and Prejudice inspired romance novel. This third book follows Margot, who's best friends with one of the girls from that first book. I read both the previous books in the series last year when I was diving into adult romance, and I love them both very much, and I love Margot as a very sensible best friend character. She's very straightforward. She's always giving very good advice, but it seems like perhaps it'll be time for her to not want to take her own advice, and we love to see it, because that's me in a friend group. So yeah, and it's sapphic. I don't think that my little description quite brought that across, but as you can tell from this gorgeous, gorgeous cover, gorgeous, gorgeous girls kiss other girls. So there you go. Next we have All the Right Reasons by Bethany Mangle, which is set to release on February 15th from Margaret K. McElderry Books. After Kara's father cheats on her mother and then gets remarried to a woman she can't stand, she accidentally posts a rant about him online. After the rant goes viral, the TV producers behind a reality dating show for single-parent families contact Clara and her mother. Suddenly, they've been cast as the leads on the show, where they're asked to narrow down a group of suitors and their kids to one winning pair. It's all super far outside of Kara's comfort zone, navigating meddling from producers and clashing with her mother about which suitors to keep around. The only person who seems to get it is a boy named Connor, except her growing feelings for him are a problem because he's the son of one of the contestants. So aside from the drama that is the premise of this book, which has me hooked, absolutely, one of the reasons that I want to read this book is because Connor here, the love interest in his little baby cast, has EDS. So EDS is a fairly rare disorder that primarily affects joints and connective tissue within the body. One of the most common symptoms is overly flexible joints, or joints that dislocate easily. You also will hear about like stretchy skin being something that is an identifier, as well as blood vessels that burst very easily. There are also a lot of like disorders that EDS increases your risk for, such as endometriosis, POTS, which is kind of like you pass out really easily, bladder problems, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, I know all of this because I have a very close friend who was diagnosed with EDS, I believe the summer after we graduated from high school, but was dealing with the symptoms of EDS and the effects of EDS on her life for years and years before that. I've known her since we were in kindergarten together. Over the course of them trying to diagnose her, she had multiple surgeries that kind of coincided with my surgeries, so that was fun. We were surgery buddies. The reason that it took so long for her to get diagnosed is that it's not a very common diagnosis. Not a lot of medical professionals, at least not on like a general practice level, know how to identify it or how to treat it. And so the fact that this love interest in this book for young people has this disorder, is wearing a sling on the cover, I can only imagine that is because of the symptoms that he experiences from this disorder. It's so cool to me, right? It's like representation that you wouldn't even know you were missing unless you're like me and you know somebody who needed it. So like the minute that I found out that this book existed, I was texting her like, I know you don't read, but do you want me to buy you this book? I will buy you this book. Like, just let me know. And I am so excited to pick it up when it releases. Next we have Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake, which is set to release on February 22nd from Berkeley. Delilah Green swore that she would never return to her hometown of Bright Falls. She's moved on and is happy with her life in New York, from her promising photography career to her no-strings-attached sex life. But when her estranged stepsister Astrid guilt trips her into being her wedding photographer, Delilah finds herself right back in the town she thought she'd escaped. The plan is to get in and back out as quick as possible. But then she sees Claire. Claire Sutherland doesn't like surprises. With the responsibility of raising her 11-year-old daughter and running a bookstore on her shoulders, she can't afford for anything to throw her life off balance. At first, being forced together with Delilah during the gauntlet of wedding prep is the worst kind of surprise. But as they get to know each other for real and bond over a plot to save Astrid from her awful fiancé, she starts to fall for Delilah's charms. Just look how cute this cover is. First of all, I think if we've learned anything from this video, it's that if there are two women standing kind of back to back on the cover of a romance novel, I will want to read it. But also I'm just so excited for this sort of like opposites attract, they have nothing in common, their lifestyles do not mesh, except somehow, through the power of the romance novel, they're gonna be perfect for each other. They're gonna have exactly what they didn't know they needed. And also they're about to ruin a man's life, apparently. But I bet he probably deserves it. Next we have One for All by Lily Lanoff, which is set to release on March 8th from Farrar, Straus & Grow. Everyone thinks that Tanya DeBotz's near-constant dizziness makes her weak, but she dreams of following in the footsteps of her former musketeer father. In fact, she feels the strongest with a sword in her hand, but after her father is brutally murdered, she decides to honor his dying wish for her to attend finishing school, except underneath its finishing school facade, l'Académie des Mariés is a secret training program for female musketeers. So this book is a Three Musketeers reimagining with a disabled female main character, and apparently she has a whole sisterhood of ladies with swords at her side, which I love. I was in fencing club for a whole semester my freshman year of college, so I feel like I am part of that sisterhood in a way. I can relate to their badassery and espionage. Either way, I am so excited to pick this book up, and I am loving all of the disability rep that we are seeing in 2022. So actually, Tanya has POTS, which stands for, and bear with me because I'm going to pronounce this just as poorly as I pronounced the French just a second ago, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I mentioned this earlier as a co-disorder of EDS, and I believe it is one of the co-disorders that my friend also has. I also bring this up because the audiobook for this title is going to be narrated by Mara Wilson, like Matilda Mara Wilson, because she is an actress who actively talks about having a POTS diagnosis. And I think that is so cool. So this is a book by an author with POTS about a character with POTS, and the audiobook is going to be narrated by an actress with POTS. That's so cool. Next we have Being Mary Bennett by J.C. Peterson, which is set to release on March 15th from Harper Teen. It is a truth universally ignored that most bookworms who secretly wish to be Lizzie Bennett actually have a lot more in common with her younger sister Mary. Marnie Barnes has just recently come to this conclusion that she's not the protagonist of her own life. Unwilling to accept her boring, forgettable Bennett sister status, she enlists the help of her bubbly roommate to reinvent herself into a leading lady. But does becoming the main character mean you have to rewrite your entire life? Hey look, it's the mandatory Pride and Prejudice book. Every year I end up with at least one Pride and Prejudice retelling, reimagining on my list. I like to collect Pride and Prejudice inspired stories, and so I am always on the lookout, and this one seems super interesting because it's shining a light on the often ignored middle Bennett sister, Mary. Mary often gets the short end of the stick. She is, out of all the sisters, the one most likely to be eliminated from the retelling. So I'm happy that she's getting her chance to shine through Marnie, and I'm super excited for this new angle, this new take on a story that I love revisiting. Next we have Queen of the Tiles by Hannah Ackhoff, which is set to release on April 19th from Simon & Schuster Books for Young Readers. Nejra is trying to move on with her life after the death of her best friend Trina. But it may have been a bad idea to pick the Scrabble competition where Trina died as her first one back. Trina was the Scrabble queen, and her friends are all eager to claim her throne, but things really start to get heated when someone begins posting cryptic messages on her formerly inactive Instagram that suggest there may be more to her death than meets the eye, and someone at the competition might have had something to do with it. So I love a YA about a character with a super specific interest. And so when I first read the title, Queen of the Tiles, I honestly thought that it was going to be fantasy, because it sounds like the Queen of the Tiles, right? No, it's Scrabble. They're Scrabble tiles. I am obsessed with that. I wish that I could say I'm excited about this book because I love Scrabble. I don't handle Scrabble well, because I do not win at Scrabble, at least when I'm playing with my family. And as a competitive person, I don't take that super great. However, I will be able to relate, I suppose, to the competitive nature of these teenagers who will make me feel bad about myself because they are better at a game than I will ever be, even though they are fictional. I'm super excited to figure out which one of them might have murdered someone, though. That's gonna be fun. Next we have I Kiss Sarah Wheeler by Casey McQuiston, which is set to release on May 3rd from St. Martin's Press. Chloe Green has spent the last 4 years focused on one thing: winning valedictorian. The only thing standing in her way is her rival, the principal's perfect prom queen daughter, Sarah Wheeler. But a month before graduation, when Chloe can finally claim her victory, Sarah kisses Chloe and then disappears, leaving behind only a cryptic note. Turns out that Sarah's quarterback sweetheart Smith and bad boy neighbor Rory also got a kiss and a clue, so the three of them form an unlikely alliance to unravel the trail of clues and bring her back home. So, this is Casey McQuiston's first YA novel. If we're being honest, I am picking up some early 2010s, golden era of YA vibes, some John Green vibes, a little bit of Paper Towns sprinkled in there. But because it's Casey McQuiston, I know that it's going to be some sort of super queer, and honestly, solid premise. A list of clues. There's nothing better than a list of clues and a girl who is too mysterious for her own good. That's exciting. You can't tell me that's not exciting. Next we have Melt With You by Jennifer Dugan, which is set to release on May 17th from G.P. Putnam Sons Books for Young Readers. Fallon and Chloe used to be friends, but after a hookup and subsequent series of misunderstandings, they're not even on speaking terms. Chloe's been gone at college, but now that she's back, Fallon is doing her best to avoid her, which hasn't been easy because they both work at the gourmet ice cream truck that their mothers co-own together. It becomes downright impossible when they have to take the truck across the country for a presentation to some venture capitalists, stopping at a series of food festivals along the way. Gonna be honest, the premise is interesting, but it was the ice cream puns that hooked me. Last year, in one of these videos, I promised I was going to read the entire Jennifer Dugan back catalog, and I did that. I read all three of her books in 2021. I liked all of them, but my favorite was Some Girls Do, so if the trajectory continues, then I should love Melt with You possibly even more. Next we have The Lesbians Guide to Catholic School by Sonora Reyes, which is set to release on May 17th from Balser and Bray. After being outed by her ex-best friend, Yamilet Flores is ready for a fresh start at Slayton Catholic. She's not happy being the new kid amongst her mostly rich white classmates, but at least they don't know she's gay. In order to keep it that way, she's making it a priority to not fall in love, which is really difficult after she meets Beau, who's annoyingly cute, smart, talented, and who also happens to be the only openly queer girl at school. So between this book and Ophelia After All, spring 2022 is a great time for sapphic Latinas. I'm so happy to see the queer coming of age story getting reworked and reimagined by people from different marginalized identities. And look how gorgeous this cover is. I love it. She is absolutely radiating confidence. She looks so beautiful. I love how feminine she still looks, because I think a lot of times people associate the word lesbian with a masculine presenting woman, and that's not the case here. Not only is she projecting femininity in a gorgeous way, she is doing it in a very culturally specific way. She has her hoops, she has her baby hairs, she's got her bright lipstick, she's rocking it all in a way I never could, and it's making my little Latina heart very happy. Next we have A Little Bit Country by Brian D. Kennedy, which is set to release on May 31st from Balser and Bray. Emmett McGuire is going to be country music's biggest gay superstar, but until then, he's doing the next best thing, performing at Wanda World, the amusement park owned by country music legend and Emmett's personal hero, Wanda Jean Stubbs. Country music has brought nothing but pain to Luke Barnes and his family. His grandmother, disgraced singer Verna Rose, had a famous falling out with Wanda Jean. So, Wanda World is the last place he'd ever want to take a job, but with his mother's medical bills piling up, he doesn't have a lot of options. Sparks fly when the two boys meet, but a long-lost secret about Verna and Wanda might threaten to tear them apart. So there's a couple things I'm really excited about with this book. First of all, it's set in an amusement park. I love amusement parks. I love stories set at amusement parks. And I just love that Brian D. Kennedy is doing his part in helping reclaim country music for the gays. As someone who grew up in Oklahoma, which is arguably southern adjacent, definitely within the territory of you can't escape country music, I've always had sort of a love-hate relationship with it. Because it's such a big cultural signifier of the place that I am from, but I grew up in a post 9/11 world where country music became incredibly politicized, incredibly nationalistic. A lot of the songs that were popular when I was growing up were incredibly sexist as well, and as someone who is not a Christian, that just added another layer of not being able to relate. I love the sound of country music. Give me a guitar, give me a banjo, give me a little harmonica moment, and that's great. But I just cannot relate to the whole drink a beer, drive a truck, make a sexual innuendo about a tractor, thank God I'm a country boy, sort of lyrics that were populating the radio. More recently though, as an adult, I've been able to sort of discover country music artists who are more my speed. And so I love that the country music this book is trying to pay homage to. The kind of country music that Emmett seems to want to join the legacy of is this sort of classic style of country music that I am growing to appreciate more and more. Last but certainly not least, we have Epically Earnest by Molly Horan, which is set to release on June 1st from HOH Books for Young Readers. Jane Grady is better known to the world as #BagBaby. She became a viral sensation at just 1 year old when her adoptive father found her abandoned at a train station in a Gucci bag. Now she's a high school senior, questioning whether she wants to reconnect with her bio family like her best friend Algie wants her to, and navigating an intense crush on his perfect cousin Gwen. If she wants to make her life truly epic, she'll have to learn how to be honest with everyone, especially herself. So this book is described as a wink towards Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, which is a play and also a hot mess that I actually have a very large soft spot for. I was in speech and drama freshman year, and we did an entire unit on British accents, and the play that my instructor picked was The Importance of Being Earnest. So I have actually performed scenes from this play, had to read the entire thing, and I was doing all that while I was in the midst of my own personal love triangle, which if you know the plot of that story, you will appreciate as being just ridiculous, honestly, actually. So I'm super excited to see a modern day, very queer take on this very chaotic story that I love. But also I always really appreciate books that address adoption, give perspectives on what it means to potentially reconnect with your family and what family even is, and just how different characters navigate that very complicated situation. If you've been around on this channel for a while, you do know that I have a personal family history with adoption, and so those are topics that are very close to my heart and my own life experiences, and I love seeing them on the page, so I'm very excited to pick this one up when it releases. Alright, there you have it. Those are all the contemporary and historical books releasing in the first half of 2022 that I cannot wait to read. Remember that last week I posted a video talking about all of the sci-fi and fantasy releases I'm anticipating, so make sure to go check that out. I will have it linked somewhere around here. Also, if you check out the description of this video, you'll see that I have linked to where you can pre-order a copy of every single one of these books, as well as any pre-order campaigns that I have found, and I will try to keep on top of those, keep updating that description as the year progresses and as more pre-order campaigns get announced, because we love supporting authors by pre-ordering their books. If you like this video and you want to see more from my channel, remember to click that subscribe button. And with that being said, my name is Evelyn. I make new videos every Magical Monday, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.